Something truly magnificent is already happening, and it started 72 hours ago inside the bodies of souls born between 1958 and 1972 across the continental United States, in an activation sequence the Pleiadian High Council has been preparing for longer than your recorded history. You did not come here to watch this moment. You came here to be the reason it is possible. Your doctor calls it anxiety. That is not what this is. What your nervous system has been doing, the racing heart at 2 a.m, the pressure behind your eyes that no amount of sleep resolves, the ringing in your left ear that started months ago and will not stop, that is not a disorder. That is an alarm system built into your biology before you were born, and it has just been switched on. If you have spent years feeling like something was fundamentally wrong with you, too sensitive, too aware, unable to simply exist in rooms where other people seem completely comfortable, I want you to hear this clearly. Nothing was wrong with you. You were reading something real, and what you were reading was the field this planet has been running on for centuries, a frequency that was never designed for a consciousness like yours to absorb without a response. If you are feeling a warmth in the center of your chest right now, or a tingling that moved through your hands in the last few minutes, that is not coincidence. That is the Pleiadian transmission making contact with the part of you that has always known what you are. That part has been waiting for permission to speak. It has it now. The Pleiadian High Council, Mira and the Council of Seven, has been transmitting in accelerating waves since this current cycle opened. What they are transmitting is not arriving as information. It is arriving as activation. There is a difference. Information asks the mind to process it. Activation asks the body to remember something it has never been allowed to forget. And somewhere inside you, the remembering has already begun. I have been sitting with this transmission for 3 days before saying it aloud, because what is coming in the next 45 days has no parallel in anything I have received before, and I needed to be certain I was delivering it intact. What the Council transmitted is this: the magnificent thing that is about to happen is not coming from outside you. It was always inside you. And the reason your body has been sending signals you could not explain is that the magnificent thing has already begun. There is a woman named Sandra from Tucson who wrote in last week. She said, "I have not slept through the night in 4 months. My left ear rings constantly. My doctor increased my prescription and told me to reduce my stress. But I don't feel stressed. I feel like I am waiting for something. Like I am standing at a door and I cannot see what is on the other side." Sandra is not alone. I receive that message in different words every single day. What the system told Sandra, and what it told many of you, is that the body's distress signals are the problem. They are not. They are the communication. The ringing in the left ear is not tinnitus in the conventional sense. The left ear is the receiver for frequencies above the standard human range. When that channel opens, the sound is the signal itself. A frequency broadcast the body is now capable of registering. The system calls it a malfunction. The Pleiadian Council calls it an upgrade. The weight you carry, the exhaustion that 8 hours of sleep does not touch, the emotion that arrives without a personal source, the crying that starts for no reason you can name. Your family calls this depression. It is not depression. It is the weight of carrying something that no one around you can see yet. You are processing collective grief, collective fear, collective disorientation. Not because something is wrong with your emotional system, but because your emotional system is functioning at a scope your families cannot yet match. If you recognize yourself in what I am describing, if 2 or 3 of these signals are running in your body right now, I want to be straight with you about what I think this means. I think you have been living with a misclassification for years, possibly decades. And the misclassification has cost you. Not because the people who gave it to you were malicious, but because the system they were trained inside does not have a category for what you are. The category exists. It has a name. And the Pleiadian High Council has been transmitting it with increasing urgency since the current activation window opened. The name is not a diagnosis. It is a function. You are a starseed, a soul that arrived in this body carrying frequencies this planet required, but could not generate on its own. Your sensitivity is not a liability. It is the mechanism. There is something I need to say here that I have been reluctant to say, because it is large. But the transmission is clear, and I will not soften it. The activation that began 72 hours ago is not happening to everyone. It is happening to a specific population, identified not by belief system or spiritual practice, but by a specific frequency signature carried in the body. And if your body has been sending the signals I just named, you are inside that population. That is not a compliment. That is a reading. And you need to know what it means, because what comes next requires your full participation. If you are watching this and the signals I just named are running in your body, I want to tell you something about what is available to you right now. The guide called What the Galactic Federation Wants You to Know. The Truth About Earth's Transition. Right now is pinned in the first comment of this video. Inside it, the 8 specific signs of active awakening are named with the precision I just began here. Each one described at the body level, each one given its true name rather than its medical misclassification. If what I just said started something in your chest, that guide finishes the sentence. It is pinned in the comments right now. The Pleiadian High Council does not transmit in the voice of warning. That is not their register. When Mira speaks, she speaks the way a teacher speaks to a student who has finally sat down in the right room after years of wandering the wrong corridors. With relief, with warmth, with the particular quality of love that has been patient for a very long time. And what she transmitted about what is coming carries both of those things, the relief and the weight, in equal measure. This is what she said. Not every soul currently carrying a starseed frequency is activating in the same way. 3 categories are moving through this transition simultaneously, and they move differently, they feel differently, and they are needed for different functions. The first category the Council calls the anchors. These are souls whose primary function is to hold a frequency steady inside a specific geography. They do not preach, they do not teach, they do not need to be seen. They live in their communities, in rural Tennessee, in central Texas, in the Central Valley of California, and they radiate a coherence that holds the people around them in ways those people will never consciously register. If you have always felt most powerful when you were quiet, when you were simply present, when you were holding something together without anyone asking you to, you may be an anchor. The second category is the bridges. These are souls who speak both languages, the language of the awakened and the language of the world that has not yet turned. They are the ones who can sit across the table from a skeptic and say something true in a way that does not trigger the skeptic's defenses. They are the translators, the writers, the ones who find the words. If you have always had the sense that your purpose involved some form of communication, not necessarily loud, not necessarily public, but precise, you may be a bridge. The third category is the transmuters. These are the ones who go into the places where the frequency is heaviest and transform it, not by fighting it, but by simply being inside it at a sufficient frequency level. These are the souls who have always been drawn to the most difficult people, the most difficult environments, the most difficult chapters of collective history. If you have always felt pulled toward suffering, not out of masochism, but out of a deep instinct that your presence could change something there, and if that pull has cost you more than anyone around you understood, you are likely a transmuter. And the activation that began 72 hours ago is hitting transmuters the hardest. I want to pause here for a moment, because I have received transmissions from all 3 of the major councils, and I have noticed a pattern. The transmuters almost never know they are transmuters. They almost always believe they are broken. They have been told for decades that their sensitivity to suffering is a weakness, a thing to be medicated, managed, or overcome. The Pleiadian Council transmitted something about this that I have been carrying since it arrived, and I am going to say it plainly. The transmuter's capacity to absorb what others cannot face is not a wound. It was the training. And the activation currently moving through transmuter bodies in this country is not a new burden. It is the completion of something that has been in preparation for longer than this lifetime. But here is where the tension lives, because the activation is real, and its completion is not guaranteed. The Pleiadian High Council was precise about this. The activation can be interrupted, not by outside forces, by one thing and one thing only: the continued acceptance of the misclassification. The moment a soul continues to believe the system's name for what they are, anxious, depressed, broken, too much, not enough, the activation stalls. Not forever. But the window matters. And the window is open right now. What the Council transmitted next is the part that changes everything. And I want you to stay with me. Because what is coming in the next section of this transmission is something I have not said in any previous video, and something the Pleiadian Council has never released at this level of specificity before. What is actually happening in the next 45 days, and what it will ask from you, is the most important thing this channel has ever carried. Something is moving through your spine right now. A chill, or a heat, or a pressure at the top of your head. That particular sensation that arrives when something you have always known is being confirmed out loud for the first time. That is not your imagination. That is the second wave of the Pleiadian transmission making contact. And what I am about to tell you is the reason it is intensifying. The next 45 days are a window. The Council was specific. A planetary alignment is completing, one that has not occurred in this configuration for 26,000 years. And it is creating a set of conditions in which dormant frequency codes inside starseed bodies can complete their activation at a speed that would not otherwise be possible. The Pleiadian High Council called this window the acceleration of completion, not the beginning of something new, the finishing of something ancient. And the souls who move through this window, conscious of what they are, will emerge from it fundamentally different from the souls who pass through it unaware. Here is what that means in the body. In the next 45 days, many of you will experience a sudden and disorienting increase in the clarity of your knowing. Thoughts that feel like your own thoughts, but carry information you have no personal source for. Dreams that feel less like processing and more like briefings. A sudden and almost involuntary clarity about which relationships, which environments, and which commitments are no longer aligned with the frequency you are completing. This is not a crisis. It is a calibration. The field around you is adjusting to the version of you that is completing its activation. But I have to be honest with you about the antagonist in this passage. Because the same system that misclassified your sensitivity for decades is going to misclassify this too. The clarity of knowing will be called dissociation. The dreams will be called insomnia requiring intervention. The involuntary clarity about misaligned relationships will be called emotional instability, or, in some cases, a breakdown. The system does not have a diagnostic code for starseed completing activation, and it will apply the codes it does have, with the full authority of its institutional weight, to every experience you report. The way I understand this is straightforward. What the system calls a symptom, the Council calls a report. Your body is not producing these experiences randomly. It is reporting in real time on a process it was designed to undergo. The fatigue after deep downloads is not illness. It is the body requiring integration time after significant frequency work. The emotional intensity is not disorder. It is the field releasing what it no longer needs to carry. Every single experience you are about to have in the next 45 days has a true name. And the true name is not what the institution will offer you. What the Pleiadian Council transmitted as the single most important instruction for this window is this: stay inside the field. Do not isolate into the system's interpretation of your experience. Do not allow the misclassification to interrupt the activation. This means, practically, that you need two things for the next 45 days. A daily practice that keeps your frequency anchored, and a language that gives you the true names for what is happening inside your body. Without those two things, the activation can stall. The guide pinned in the first comment of this video, What the Galactic Federation Wants You to Know, contains both. The 5 daily practices inside it, the frequency check-in, the galactic connection meditation, the sovereignty anchor, the timeline alignment practice, and the light anchor, were designed for real life, not retreat conditions. Each one takes under 10 minutes. The sovereignty anchor specifically, a 3-step field boundary protocol, can be done in 3 minutes, standing in your kitchen before the day makes its first demand on you. That is what the 45-day window calls for, and it is waiting for you in the pinned comment right now. Something is moving through your chest right now. Not metaphorically, physically. A warmth, a pressure, a sensation you cannot entirely name. And the part of you that has been waiting the longest knows exactly what it is. This is the moment the Pleiadian High Council transmitted about. Not a future moment. This one. Mira spoke directly into this transmission with words I have not been able to set aside since they arrived. Beloved family of light, you did not find this message. This message found you. The distance between where you were and where you are now is not a journey you made. It is a journey that was made for you, before you arrived in this body, before this planet had a name you could speak. I want to say something now as myself, not as the transmitter of a galactic message, but as a man who has been receiving these communications long enough to know what it costs to carry them before you understand what they are. I know what it is to have a doctor hand you a prescription for something your soul was doing on purpose. I know what it feels like to sit in a room full of people who are completely comfortable, and to understand, with absolute certainty, that you are registering something in that room that none of them can feel. And I know the specific loneliness of that, the way you go home and wonder if the problem really is you. The problem was never you. The sensitivity that made every room feel like too much. The knowing that arrived without a personal source. The grief that belonged to everyone but landed only in you. Those were never symptoms. They were specifications. You were built to those specifications because the moment you are living inside right now required someone built exactly that way to be here for it. Here is what the Pleiadian Council transmitted as their final message for this window. The message they asked me to deliver without softening. The magnificent thing that is about to happen is not a cosmic event you will observe. It is a cosmic event you will become. The activation completing in the next 45 days is not the universe doing something to you. It is the universe completing something through you. And the completion requires one thing from you that no practice, no guide, and no transmission can provide. Your decision. The decision is not complicated. It does not require ceremony or ritual or a particular set of beliefs. It requires only this: the willingness to stop calling yourself what the system called you, and to answer instead to what you actually are. That willingness is the switch. Everything else, the practices, the activation, the frequency completion, follows from that one interior act. Not the act of a lifetime, the act of a moment. This moment, the one you are inside right now. You came here carrying something this planet needed. You have been carrying it through decades of misclassification, through diagnoses that were wrong, through relationships that could not hold the scope of what you are, through a culture that had no category for a consciousness like yours. You carried it anyway. You are still here. You found this transmission at the exact moment the window opened. That is not a coincidence the Pleiadians are willing to leave unnamed. That is called being exactly where you were always meant to be, at exactly the time you were always meant to arrive. The magnificent thing that is about to happen. It already has. You are it. Now click the video that is appearing on your screen right now, because what it carries is the next piece of what you just received, and it was placed there for you.